for a really good chat. Hello Facebook, nice to see you live. And hello YouTube, watching on catch up. Now this is a very special live, it's an extra little one to welcome in the weekend and also to welcome the brand new edition of Earle Wellbeing magazine. You can expect your copy any day if you're a subscriber. Be coming through the door. It's so lovely. I always love a great new issue. And this is all about Christmas. Comfort and joy is the theme. And we're going to be joined by one of our brilliant columnists. Oh, just love this man, James Earle. How to survive the festive season, how to survive family conflict and more. We've had so many questions. It's just going to be such a good chat. So pull up a chair, grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee, maybe tea. Don't disrupt the sleep later on. I've got my cup of tea and let's see if we can get going. So James has been writing for us for quite a few issues now. I've really been enjoying his features and he's so wise. You know, he is a brilliant, very experienced relationship counsellor, family guide. I'm just going to click him on here. Here we go. I can see that he is with us. Betty is manning Facebook. Hi, Betty. So you will definitely be putting links up on Facebook as well to all the things that we talk about. And of course, you can find lots of information on relationships, mental health, all of that and more over on lizearlewellbeing.com and all the Liz loves and everything else as well. Hello, James.
Hi, Liz. Nice to see you. I'm just trying to get the volume sorted out.
Yeah, I'm going to turn mine right up too so that we're on max. Because we've got so much to talk about. There's been so many questions coming in. And
Fantastic.
Let's start perhaps with a little bit of an intro for those that haven't read your brilliant columns that you've been writing for us in the magazine. Honestly, I so enjoy. I almost pick up the new copy now and turn to the back where you are. Because you're so wise and you're so experienced in helping families, couples, individuals, particularly with a focus on relationships, which are just so key, aren't they, to all of us, to our mental health, our well-being.
I think the natural state of people is to probably be in relationships. So getting them right or getting them as content as they can be is, is a key to happiness.
Yeah.
It's interesting work because I think so much can be difficult about relationships, but if we know what we're doing and if we can be mindful about things, we can really make things a lot easier.
Oh, it's so key. And I think, coming through the last couple of years particularly has placed a lot of strain on relationships for people who were kind of forced to connect together, be under the same roof, perhaps for extended periods of time, but also for those who missed out on relationships or whose relationships suffered. And of course, whether or not we're in a romantic relationship or a marriage, to your point, we have relationships with so many around us. We may well have our parents,
absolutely.
Our children,
Yes,
our friends,
family, friends,
our work colleagues, everything.
Colleagues, yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and we've seen the impact of social behaviour on our mental health. And as you say, we know we're human beings. We're designed to be with others, aren't we? We're not solitary beings.
I think we are. I think, if you think we're before we're born, we're attached to another human being, our mothers. It seems to me the natural state is to be connected. That goes on all our life. Having said that, of course, COVID has made it very clear that when we're enforced into closeness, it's not always a good thing. So there's been a lot of pressure on couples in the last 2 years, for sure.
Yeah, and the friends I know who work with families, particularly family law, the divorce lawyers have never been busier.
Oh, well, that's true, I'm sure, yeah, I know. I think certainly my workload has gone up since COVID.
Has it?
But I think, what quite often happened was that at the beginning of COVID, couples were enjoying spending a little bit more time together and having a bit more free time. It's just that can become quite oppressive after a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And, it's about learning the balance between being me and being half of us.
Yeah.
And that's constantly negotiated in the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the most common relationship problems that people come to you with?
I suppose the most common of all is loss of desire, loss of intimacy. It seems to be the common modern problem in relationships. We may wonder why that is, but I think perhaps because we have very high expectations of relationships. You know, one person is meant to be our best friend, probably our co-parent, our business partner, particularly if we have property together, but also our red-hot lover.
Yeah, all of those things.
Quite a tall order.
Yeah.
So I guess, the pressure on us to do all those things at once is rather intense. And I think a lot of people settle into a sort of quiet companionship and lose some of the energy that they had at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's that feeling of connection and energy at the beginning, which we should, if we can, try and continue all the way through. It's not entirely about sex, of course. That's about just feeling like you want to talk to the other person and share things with them and so on. It's that sort of feeling.
Yeah. Is a loss of desire then inevitable, would you say, in a long-term relationship?
Well, that's a very good question. I don't think it's absolutely inevitable, but I do think it's pretty much predictable. And the reasons for it are because at the beginning of a relationship, we have on our side novelty and newness, and also getting to know you, all of which inspires that sort of animated connection. And later on, we don't have novelty and newness, and we do know the person, so those motivations for the connection are gone. And in addition to that, we have not only taken on another role towards our partner, which is not just to play with them, but to look out for them, be essentially a sort of quasi-parent.
Yeah.
And I think that second role sometimes conflicts with the first one. But in addition, we've usually taken on a whole shed load of everyday routine, which the Chinese call cut wood, fetch water. And there's nothing particularly romantic about cut wood, fetch water, except you have to do it.
Yeah, so what's the first step then if we are feeling that, if we're feeling that disconnection and that lack of intimacy, and as you say, that may or may not revolve around sex, but it is that connection and that physical affection. How do we get that back if we feel that it's been gone for so long, maybe?
I think one of the things to do is to sort of decide that it's worth talking about. Because I think particularly if you have kids, you may decide that you're in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
And therefore it's probably worth getting it sorted out. And the first stage to get anything sorted out is talking. So really finding a way of talking, which is sometimes easier with somebody like me, an outsider, and sometimes you can do it by yourself if you're both committed to the idea. But, talking about what things were like, what they're like now, what you're maybe missing, what you feel is possible. So, for example, quite often the couple will miss the idea of just having simple bits of play together. In the old days, they may have sat down in the evening and listened to music together or played a game together, and they don't do that anymore. So simple things like that can get just a little bit of that feeling back, and then that starts to inspire us. So it's not the whole story, but it's the beginning.
So it's not just jumping in, it's not kind of just going out and buying a whole set of racy underwear and saying, right, okay, let's go.
I think it's usually not something that's gone wrong in the bedroom. It's usually something that's gone wrong outside the bedroom. So if you try and address it in the bedroom, you're probably not going to get very far. I mean, it could be that if you try 200 new spicy, positions, that everything gets sorted. But my guess is that's not going to really work. I think it's more about realising what the preconditions for a good sexual relationship are, which actually, interestingly, are not really loving somebody, but it is feeling connected to them. And that connection in itself has to be sort of pre-existing to sex. It has to be outside sex. So it's about, feeling that there's some reason that you think it's cool being with that person. Yeah. And then expressing that sexually usually is not too much of a jump. That's how I think it works. And
that, I think, takes the pressure off, doesn't it? Because if you're, rather than thinking, oh my goodness, our sex life has shriveled up, or there isn't that intimacy there and it's all gone wrong, if we kind of break that down into smaller pieces and say, how do we just get back that little bit of fun, that little bit of connection, that doesn't, as you say, doesn't start in the
Absolutely.
bedroom, that, might start in the kitchen over a cup of tea and a chat, or, sitting down with a board game, or going out for a walk, or, as you say, listening to music, or going to a concert or something. That does diffuse the situation a bit.
I agree. I think it kind of lowers the bar and allows people to sort of feel more optimistic that they could achieve that at least. Because quite often sex seems like it's an impossible mountain to climb again.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think actually what the preconditions, usually because we generally have a bouncy libido, it's possible to get back into it. But I wouldn't start there. I'd start in the other areas. And I think one of the things we have to bear in mind is that a lot of this isn't about extended periods of play. It's about a general feeling of playfulness that you can have even if you're passing somebody in the house. So, for example, if somebody's been out of a room for 15 minutes, when they walk back in, smile at them.
Yeah. Don't ignore, don't be cold.
Don't ignore them, and be gently positive if you can, because in general, what we're in our heads, whether we like to admit it or not, and it's a little bit disloyal, is we're running a parallel universe in which I'm living by myself. And in that parallel universe, I can imagine being quite happy, doing the things I want, and being me. So is it better doing that with you? And it usually is better doing that with you if you're generally positive, you're supportive of me, I feel like I can grow and develop in the way that I want and be productive and creative better with you than living by myself. But of course, if you're a bit of a grouch and generally I don't feel that encouraged by you, at the end of the day, the thing that goes wrong is I can't quite see what I'm getting out of this that adds to what I'd be doing by myself. So, it's actually quite a good way of testing a relationship. I wouldn't look at how good is the sex, how good is the love. I'd look at how much better do I feel being with you, because I have more fun with you than I'd have by myself, and I can feel like I can become the person I want to be more with you than I had to by myself. And that sort of fun growth model is quite different to sort of love sex. I think fun and growth are what it's all about. It's why people leave relationships, and most importantly, it's why they stay in them.
Wow, wise words already. And actually, those little things, you say, smiling at somebody when they come back into a room, or, just the touch of a hand, the stroke of a head, the little squeeze as you leave. Those are the things, aren't they? That you get that almost little spark. You just feel that little shiver of joy that radiates through your body physically.
I think that touch is really important because we're mammals. We like to feel somebody breathing. And if we just become two sort of minds wandering around a house together, touch isn't all about sex by any means. It's about actually a bit of comfort and a bit of sort of knowledge that we're not alone. So a 4-second hug is my prescription.
A 4-second hug.
4-second hug. 4 seconds is what everybody generally can tolerate. If you come together for 4 seconds, so I say, I'd like to give you a hug. Oh, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then away. If you hang on for longer than 4 seconds, quite often this is what happens. The other person's trying to get away. Why are you hugging me now? So 4 seconds is a good time to aim for, just to reassure, to feel like you're close and to comfort, and it's a really nice thing to do. Try and do it horizontally though. In other words, try and do it in a way which doesn't infantilize the other person. So if you do that sort of hug, you're hugging mummy or daddy. If you do this sort of hug, you're hugging your child.
I can't see what you're doing. Are you doing this?
Oh, sorry. I'm sort of doing a comforting hug like this, where you're sort of tapping the other person on the head, kissing the top of their head.
Okay,
sort of that's
there, dear, kind of thing. A little bit patronising.
Exactly. And so the sort of hug you want to try is what I call a lover's hug, which is not sexual, but it indicates that the other person is a significant body to you. So you're holding them close. You're not squeezing the life out of them, and you're not touching them sexually, but you're being close to them. That sort of hug is really nice for 4 seconds.
Oh, 4 seconds, the 4 second rule. Okay, so I'm going to dive in here with some of the questions. We've had so many questions. Thank you so much. one of the things really, I guess, comes back to having a significant other in our lives. Are there key conversations that we should be having with our partner ahead of any family gathering? And I guess now we're thinking about moving ahead into festive season. You know, we are socialising more. We are perhaps seeing family who we haven't seen maybe for a while. Maybe this will be the first Christmas gathering for a few years. Do we need to kind of front it out with our other half before we get into the room with these people?
I think it's really useful, particularly if it's early in the relationship and you haven't become familiar with them. But I think one of the things that most partners notice is when their partner goes into their family of origin, they become somebody different. It's as if the old family rules and regulations
slip
sort of
into
suck
that.
the
Yeah.
person back in.
Yeah.
And so we kind of perceive that our partner's behaving in a really different way. Maybe, more attentively to their parents, maybe actually more belligerently. There's all sorts of things that can happen. But I think the key thing is talk about it beforehand if you can, because if you can, if you can get an idea from your partner of how your family of origin actually was it affectionate and warm? Was it rather was it respectful but rather distant?
Yeah.
Was it argumentative? And what role did you have in that family? So quite often families will appoint children in different roles without really necessarily meaning to. It's not necessarily conscious. But, Rachel is the clever one. Bobby is the sporty one. Johnny's the funny one. Sue, I don't know what Sue's going to do. I don't think she knows what we've all got our appointed roles.
Yeah.
So you can always talk to your partner about what role you think they had in the family. And that sort of leads on to this other question of do families have mottos? Because that idea of a motto is a very interesting one. I think, although no family probably has an explicit motto, people quite often recognise the motto of their family. It might be something like, work hard and do your best. Yeah. Or it might be, don't show yourself up. Or it might be, it's okay, but don't take the last piece of cake. There's 101. There's 101 sort of rules. They're kind of like rules that sort of guide the family. And if you can get an idea of what that rule was for your partner's family, you probably get an idea of how they're different to yours.
Yes. So
a conversation about mottos and roles really gives you an understanding of how you're different. And then don't be surprised when your partner's there that they're going to go into something slightly different. I used to go on holiday with my parents, and on day one, so I'd go away for 3 days with them. On day one, it was great. On day two, it was a bit snappy. And on day three, I was 12 years old.
Really? Whatever, even as an adult, you went right back to that kid.
Even as an adult, absolutely. Yeah, but by day three, I was back to being effectively an adolescent again, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm just seeing here, Chrissy saying our family motto is hold back. And
there we are.
There's a lot of holding back, isn't there? And that's not always a good thing. And I think perhaps if you're somebody who comes from an environment where you maybe overshare, that could perhaps be seen as a bit kind of threatening in some way. It's like, who is this person? And they might think, well, why aren't you being open with me?
For sure, absolutely. This is why talking with your partner about your family's origin is incredibly helpful.
What they can expect.
What they can expect, how you recognise that you may change, and any conflicts of loyalty, because sometimes a child might take sides with the parent against the partner. That's never a good thing to do, but it can happen. And so preempting these things by talking about them is always a good thing.
Yes. Very interesting. And also, I guess, explaining any previous history that might have led to that.
For sure, yeah. And that's quite often
that
really
can explain
important.
it.
I mean, we never know the whole history of our partner's family, but, significant events like miscarriages, deaths in the family, people leaving.
Triggers maybe to avoid.
Absolutely, yeah. And things just to know about because they form the culture of the family.
Yeah. Why do you think then that getting on with our in-laws can sometimes be so difficult? We kind of think, we've married this
Yeah.
person, we're embraced in the family, and yet there's a trickiness there, there's a tension, and we might dread having to spend some time with our mother and father-in-law, or they might dread having to spend time with their daughter or son-in-law.
I guess one of the things is that the original iteration of the family was without you. And so they're sort of going back to that familiarity. But now they've got this, without putting too strong a word on it, intruder, who they may really love and like and want to have in the machine. But it may be just difficult to fit them in because every family is so different.
Yeah.
And that's before we get to more overt hostility. I think there are sometimes things like, a parent might feel that you're not good enough for their son or daughter, or they might feel like, they've lost their son or daughter to you. Yeah. There's all sorts of things, not all of which are conscious, but can lead to, the expression of hostility at some level. Fortunately, I don't think that's too common, but it can be there.
So if relations aren't great and we do detect some hostility, how do we handle that then? What's the best way to approach it? To ignore it or confront it?
Yes. No, don't confront it.
Don't confront it. Okay. No, don't go there.
I don't think go there because I don't think it will usually end anywhere good. I think you can discuss it with your partner afterwards. That would be a really good idea. But I would treat it in this way. I would say that probably says more about them than it does about me. And if you can use that statement, that says more about them than it does about me, you can let it be a little like, water off a duck's back. Yeah.
And I guess if you've already had those conversations that might tee that up as an emotion, you're prepared. Exactly. And you go, oh, okay, hopefully. Yeah, I was warned about that. You internalise it. You don't say that out loud. You don't say, yeah, I was warned about
Precisely.
you. But you just kind of clock it and you go, yeah, well, moving on. We don't need to go there.
Your duty is to be. I don't think it's a duty to be best buds with them. I think your duty is to be, for your partner, polite with them. Yeah. And if you get any more than that, like some warmth and some possible friendship, that's great. But
yeah, what a bonus.
Yeah, what a bonus, exactly. And look at it like a bonus, and don't be too worried if it's not really there.
So we shouldn't necessarily aim to be best buddies then. That's not the name of the game.
I think, in the best of all possible worlds, how nice if that were true. But, if it's not like that, I don't think that's a matter of, terrible concern. And I wouldn't necessarily try and fix it. What I would try and do is make the relationship with your partner as good as it can be. Yeah. Because after all, and this is particularly true if you've got children, but true anyway, you are the main players. Everybody else is part of the cast, but they're not the central drama. True. The central play is about you and your partner. So this is why I think you have to concentrate on you two getting on and let these other people, be there and be as friendly as you can with them.
Supposing you're feeling really quite anxious about all this and you just know you're dreading the moment when you have to get together with, Auntie Jane or, your partner's mum or whatever, because that you believe that they're a toxic individual. You're going into that situation thinking, oh no, do we really have to go to so and so? Are there any ways that we can help either our partner who might be feeling that, thinking, I really don't want to have to go to your parents? Can we have kind of like, I don't know, safe phrases that say, actually, I really need to get out of this situation right now. This person is driving me mad and I'm about to blow.
That's a really good idea. I think safe words are a good idea.
Yeah, like did you remember to feed the dog or something that just means actually I need you to come up to the bedroom now and just give me a hug and I need to get out of the situation because it's getting out of control.
I mean, I think that's really good advice, Liz. I think in general, with a good relationship, you're looking to cue each other the whole time. Yeah. So, I don't mean you're hyper-vigilant, but at least you're checking the other person.
And you're working as a team, and you're aware of the other person. Yeah.
Precisely, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I've got some really interesting questions here. This is interesting. This has come in saying, my husband and I, we have different approaches to parenting, and I guess this, is often grandparents will have different approaches too, and might be kind of hypercritical of the way that we do things. So my husband and I approach parenting our kids really differently. We always end up fighting about this. What would you advise?
So I think quite often that's the case, and I mean a classic example of that is hard cop, soft cop.
Yeah. One of us is always bad cop. I was always flipping bad cop. Saying no, and then they go and ask their father because they knew that he was a soft touch.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the things that we can start with is the idea that having different parenting styles is probably good for kids, because if you're entirely consistent, they don't learn very much. Yeah. And although, I guess they can play you off against against one another if you at times. I think it's more important that they get an idea that parenting can be done in different ways. People are different. Adults have, and they learn to adapt, which is a bit of emotional intelligence on their part. Yeah. So I think we teach them emotional intelligence by not being the same. Now,
they're cunning critters, children.
I think if you fight about it, that effect is less present. So what I would suggest is that you accept that you're different and try as much as you can to support the other person in the way that they parent. I mean, clearly, if you see your partner doing something you really don't like and really disapprove of, as opposed to just thinking, I wouldn't do it that way, then I guess you might want to intervene. But, that's where it gets really tricky. So
and presumably you do that out of sight and earshot of the children?
Ideally. Yes, I mean, if a parent, God forbid, was about to hit one of the kids, and the other parent sees that, I guess they have to do it there.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, short of that, yes, if you can discuss it out of earshot, that's much better. Because actually, one of the things you don't want to do is to undermine your partner. And the reason we usually lose it with kids is where we feel our competency is being undermined. We just don't feel like we know what to do. So if our partner at that point comes in and says, what's going on here then? Sometimes we feel doubly undermined and we feel really incompetent, then we get cross. Yeah,
and we feel marginalised and
exactly.
All the rest of it. This is possibly a common question, unfortunately. I'm not happy in my relationship. How will I know if it's right to divorce my husband, or whether I should keep trying to make it work?
I don't think there's any hard and fast answer to
There isn't a list. There isn't a tick list.
No, but I think there's always a way in which, if you perhaps went to a relationship counsellor, you could explore the question in some depth. But I mean, essentially what we're looking for is the fulfilment of those two ideas: that I have fun with you, and I also feel I can grow into the person I want to be with you rather than without you. I think if you feel like you have very little fun and the feeling of self-development isn't really there, then it might well be time to call it a day. We are very conditioned to thinking that the ending of any relationship is a disaster or a failure. I don't think it's a helpful way of looking at things. On the other side of that, if you've got children, then I think you clearly want to think about what they might vote for.
Yeah.
And they might well vote for you giving it a try. But,
or not.
This isn't really... Or not, because...
I remember one of my kids saying to me, when I told them I was getting divorced, the first thing out of their mouth was, what took you so long?
What took you so long, yeah.
And that really stunned me. They were highly aware of what was going on, even though I was trying to hide it and make the rest of it.
That's why that test is quite a good one. If you've got kids, you can actually ask yourself, what would they vote for now? Because actually, you're quite right. They get to a stage where they say, do you have to be together? Yeah. Sometimes they won't vocalise that until you raise it, as you've just said. But, on the other hand, I think... if you don't have kids or if you're just not sure, then explore it a bit, I don't think it can be measured on, frequency of sex or, how often you say you love each other. I think it's slightly more complicated than that. I think it's whether you feel fulfilled individually and are having some fun with this person.
I was talking to somebody the other day about this very thing, and they made a really interesting point which made me think. And I think it's a lot to do with the guilt that we feel when a relationship does break down. And, I can count myself as part of this. We make vows to somebody, particularly maybe if you've been married in a church setting, or you've made promises to each other, kind of till death us do part. And they made the point that actually, but it may not be a physical death. It could be the death of the relationship. And if the relationship has died, then is that the time to part?
And I don't see any reason why relationships shouldn't sometimes have a sell-by date. Yeah. I know that doesn't sound very romantic, but it's only the romantic idea that the only good relationships are the ones that last forever. Yeah. Well, I don't think most people actually genuinely believe that, because we all have previous relationships that have been significant and important and valuable. So we can't say that because a relationship ends, it's bad. We can just say that it ran out of road. Yes. I think that's a better way of looking at things than to say, it's always a disaster or a catastrophe.
This is an interesting one. My partner recently lost his mother. How can I best support him while he's grieving?
So I think the basic rule with any experience that your partner's having, particularly difficult experiences like loss and grief, is to, this is a bit of jargon, but it's a good bit, is to walk with. So you don't try and fix people, you don't try and help them directly, you walk with them. And that walking with is the most helpful thing you can actually do. So you're there to talk, you're there to listen, you're not there to fix them, there's nothing you can do to sort it out, and you don't try to. People quite often, when they hear of somebody having a loss, will say, if there's anything I can do. Well, of course, there's nothing you can do. No. That's the actual answer. No, there's nothing you can do. So you're probably better to say, rather than if there's anything I can do, to say something like, if you'd like some company, or if you'd like to chat, or you'd like to go for a coffee.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
It's probably really helpful.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, absolutely, yeah. And I think beyond that, we just have to face the fact when you've had a loss, these things are traumatic because they're bad things that happen that you can't do anything about. That's the definition of a trauma, something you can't fix.
Yeah.
If you break your arm, you can go to the hospital and get it fixed up. If you lose your job, you can get another job. If you lose your mother, there's nothing you can do.
And what about heartbreak? For those of us who might have older children, and they're the ones going through relationship difficulties. They're the ones who maybe have been dumped by their other half. How much do we, as parents, perhaps need to get involved, or what can we say to support our young people?
I mean, I think the key thing is to walk with them, be available to them emotionally.
Right, emotionally available.
Talk to you.
Yeah, that's a great expression.
Because you certainly can't involve yourself in it directly. And I tend to think the whole area of our kids is difficult because we want to protect them. And yet,
absolutely. Get your arms around them.
If they're going to fall in love, they're going to have their heart broken at some point, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever heard was from somebody whose son broke up with his girlfriend, and they were massively in love, and he was heartbroken, and actually she wasn't too unhappy about the situation, and said, I never liked her anyway, and then of course they got back together, and then that was just awful. So just be aware that might happen.
Yes, and be aware, therefore, that if your friends are going through a breakup,
all the same.
Do not take sides.
Do not take sides. Okay.
Yeah, do not take sides. Just be there for the person that you know better, and if they get back together, that's great. And you haven't bad-mouthed their ex.
Yes. You've
allowed them to bad-mouth them if that's what they want to do. But
and
you haven't
listen.
done it yourself. Yes, because if they do get together, you don't want to be implicated in exactly, the whole thing.
Talking about getting back together, a question here, is it possible to recover after an affair?
Well, the answer to that is a very clear yes.
Oh,
Not
good.
always, but yes, it is. And I think the reason is because affairs are very common. And this is quite shocking to people that don't know the stats, but Relate, who I also work for, estimate that it may be as high as 80% of long-term relationships involve acts or more of infidelity. So probably most of your friends have experienced this.
Even if they haven't talked about it, they've...
Even if they haven't talked about it. And so, can we get through it? Yes, we can. And I know it's a dreadful platitude, and I apologise for even saying this, but sometimes it can make you stronger. But there's a reason for that. It can make you stronger because it usually means that you're going to have to talk absolutely honestly. And a lot of the old sort of half agreed contracts that were never really spoken that you got into, for example, just letting sex drift away, without really mentioning it. Things like that don't work anymore. And now you can talk about it and decide what you want. So basically, you can survive it because you're forced into an increased honesty and openness, which usually makes a better relationship.
Yeah, I know from experience of friends who've been through this, really, really tough.
Yes.
But actually, I can think of a couple of marriages that are now super strong. I don't know whether they would have had that strength, but it's great to see.
I think one of the things is to remember that trust isn't only developed organically, which is what happens at the beginning of a relationship. You begin to trust somebody, but you can contract to trust somebody. You could say, I want to offer you my trust. This is what it involves. Do you agree to that? And the point about that is that means you can go into a second phase of a relationship after you've had that sort of breach of trust without feeling like you're being an idiot. Because that's the thing that's usually corrosive. How can I trust him after he's done this? Or how can I trust her after she's done this? Yeah. It's really better to think, well, this has happened. Now I want to sort of say, if I'm going to trust you as a positive decision, which after all puts me back into the driving seat because I'm offering you trust, I'm now in control again. But, if you mess it up, that's your affair, not mine.
Yeah.
And that
James,
sort of contractual trust is quite a help.
I think that is genius. I love the advice that you've given. I love the advice that you share with our magazine readers.
Thank you very much.
Where do we best find you? I know these conversations are some that will trigger ideas and people want to be in touch with you.
So just on jamesearle.com. It's my name with .com on the end.
And you're Earl without the E, and we are not related.
I am, yes. We're not related, but we have the same name,
yeah. Yeah, jamesearle.com.
Yes. On my website, there are articles and videos and all sorts of things.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, I mean, can have a look.
Yeah, well, now's the weekend to do it, perhaps, and be prepared for any of the festive feuds, close or at extended family level, that might be anticipated. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for all your brilliance for my magazine readers. We truly love having you as part of our family. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Thanks. You're going to have to click by clicking on the little cross thing on the screen. So James Earle, absolutely brilliant. I hope that has been helpful. Thanks, Natalie. Glad that you enjoyed that. I'll make sure that we keep this live, so if you joined late, you might want to go back and have a look at the beginning, because it was really insightful, definitely worth rewatching with a notepad and pen, maybe to jot down some ideas. And of course, if you want to read James's full feature, it is in the brand new edition of Earle Wellbeing magazine. It's a special feature. It's called One Big Happy Family, ... how to avoid conflict with the in-laws and more this holiday season. Just one of the many, many brilliant features in here. We have gathered together such a great team of contributors. I'm so proud of the writing talent that we have in this magazine. It is just great. If you haven't yet subscribed and you would like to, it would be remiss of me not to tell you that there is an amazing subscription gift, of course. This is Love Liposomal, brilliant British supplement brand. It's liposomal magnesium. Helps balance us, keep us calm, help us stress less, sleep better, all of those things that we need right now. It's normally £35 because it is a premium liposomal delivery supplement, but it's completely free if you subscribe to the magazine. So if you want to grab it while it's available, please do. You can just go to lizearlewellbeing.com. There's a link there. If you want, you can gift the magazine as a Christmas present, perhaps to somebody, the gift that keeps on giving all year round. And you can actually keep the liposomal magnesium for yourself if you want. All you have to do is tell Warners, who are the subscription service, where you'd like the gift sent to. So you can either have it sent with the magazine, or you can have it sent to a separate address. Now, when I say sent with the magazine, it doesn't physically come with the magazine. It follows on a little while later because it's sent direct from these people. So don't expect it to come through the letterbox with the magazine, but it will follow on. You can either organise it by phone, if you pick up the phone and tell Warners that's what you want to do, or there's a little comments box online and you just say, actually, I'm sending the magazine to this person, but I'd like the gift sent to me or another person. The choice is yours. Anyway, it's been lovely to chat. Thank you. Really nice. Different audience, different time of day. I hope this has worked for you. Let me know. As I say, we will save it, so you can drop me a comment later. And I'll be back with you live at 12 o'clock, which is our new time for the Instagram lives, 12 o'clock on Tuesday. Tuesday, we're going to be doing a Tuesday tutorial. I'm back in the makeup chair with Grace from Studio 10, another brilliant Liz Loves. Great discounts, great website, lots of good makeup tips, just what we need to give us a fresh new face for the winter season ahead. That's it for now. Have a lovely weekend and look forward to being back with you live very soon. Thanks for all your lovely comments and hearts. Sending loads back. Thank you. Bye-bye.